whomever he was with, talking to, I mean, he would make that person feel like that person was the most important person in the room. It was really like we'd known each other for 20 years. You know, the family always talks about when Nino was a boy in Concepcion and near Tarlac, and they couldn't find him. Where is he? He was out behind the house talking to the drivers. He was politicking with the drivers. I mean, as I said, when he was 17 years old, he went to become a war correspondent during the Korean War. And then when he came back, he ran for office, youngest mayor ever elected in the Philippines, youngest senator ever elected, youngest governor ever elected in the Philippines, and destined to be the youngest president, which is why Marcos declared martial law.
On September 23, midnight, Mr. Marcos went on television and said, I, Ferdinand Marcos, acting as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, I now declare martial law and shall administer this country alone. On that day, democracy died.
The first to be arrested was Ninoy, of course, while he was having a Senate hearing at Manila Hilton, I think.
The greatest punishment that was given to him was not being in jail, but because they took him away from people. He just loved people. He glows when he talks to anybody, to you or to me or to the guards. And so what happened when they put him in isolation and they would not allow visitors? I think that was when it really hit him home.
Over a month, I think, that we were not allowed to see him. An army truck delivered all of his stuff, clothes, everything, including and up to a toothbrush. And my mother said, why are you returning his toothbrush? And the female soldier said, he has no more need of it. When I saw him in Fort Magsaysay, he had to hold on to his pants, because they literally were falling off him.
I said, I don't want this visit to cause you any pain. I don't want you to be punished in some way for this discussion that you didn't even know about. And he said, I will say anything I wish to say. There's nothing left that they can do.
For 7 years, I was not allowed to see the moon and the stars. I would walk and walk and walk across my room, just a room of about 4 meters by 5 meters, hoping that I'll get tired. And then when I get tired, I will fall asleep, knowing that tomorrow will be the same. I felt that I already earned my peace. I have done my best. I waited for 7 years and 7 months, and the Filipino people did not react. And they would even give me the impression that they love their chain and their slavery. What can one man do if the Filipino people love their slavery? If the Filipino people have lost their voice and would not say no to a tyrant, what can one man do? I have no army, I have no following, I have no money, I only have my indomitable spirit.
It was 1980. When Ninoy came here, Marcos let him leave the country for an emergency heart bypass operation. And they're all very happy. Ninoy's out of prison. They're a family again. The kids are going to school. He taught some classes and he did research. And his research was basically trying to restore democracies in countries around the world through peaceful means.
It's the peaceful revolution, I think. That is what he was looking for, because there's no victory in war.
I read in the papers that my brother was killed. I was warned first. I was warned. They gouged his eyes. They bashed his head. They cut his tongue and broke his teeth. He was so mangled. It was really, I think, deliberately intended to drive home a message that if you oppose the regime, there could be these terrible consequences. They call the system selective terror.
What I call myself is a hardcore nationalist, and at that time I did, and I was willing to do anything to get Marcos out of there. Someone had come to my residence, someone I had known from my activist years in the 70s, early 70s, and he asked me to, if I could plant a bomb at the convention where Marcos was speaking, and I was very hesitant at first, but I told them to give me a day to think it over seriously. And after a day, I weighed, I processed everything, and I said, okay, I said, I'll do it.
People whose name I cannot now tell you because their lives are in danger. They told me, Mr. Senator, they said, we have waited 8 years for you. Lead us, we are now ready. Maybe we are a handful, but we are now ready to lay down our lives, and these are young Filipino boys and girls. I told them, if you go into the road of violence, it will only lead to more violence, I said. And what will happen when 10,000 boys and girls are already dead in the streets of Manila and blood will be flowing in our very streets? I cannot, I said, resist the wailing of mothers who will now blame me that their children have died in the altar of freedom.
He had done everything he could in the United States and outside of the Philippines. He had rallied the opposition. He had spoken against Marcos. He had testified before Congress, and there was nothing more he could do. So he felt that he really had to go home.
I told Ninoy, I really honestly feel, Ninoy, that when you alight from that plane, you will be shot. And there was a moment of silence, and then Ninoy looks at me and he says, you know, June, I'm happy for that God gave me the second life that I have now. It's just a bonus for me, so that even if I were placed in a box, I would still go home, because the Filipinos are worth dying for.
I was against it. I mean, I told him, Ninoy, you suffered for 7 years and 7 months in prison, and I think you've suffered enough for your country. Why should you suffer more?
I wrote Mr. Marcos and I told him that while I have vowed never to enter the political arena again, I shall dedicate the last drop of my blood to the restoration of freedom and the dismantlement of your martial law. Do not forget that your readiness to suffer will light the torch of freedom which can never be put out. And learn to say no. No to tyranny, no to corruption, no to all this degradation of human dignity. The moment you say no, you're beginning to protest. The moment you say no to tyranny, you're beginning the struggle, the long, lonely road to freedom.